everyone, this is Melvia. Welcome back to my channel. So today we are going to continue the playtest section with Across a Thousand Dead Worlds. And before we start, I do want to quickly go through some housekeeping. So I have filled out the character sheets based on what we have rolled last time. I've also assigned some of the attributes and some of the skills levels, as you can see. I've decided to name our character Jonathan Frakes. If you do know that name, then you're not that young, unfortunately. But apart from that, the attributes are pretty standard in any RPGs. So we have our strength, dexterity, constitution, will, intelligence, and charisma. And I've decided that Jonathan will be pretty strong in the constitution and willpower. And also from my personal experience, these two are quite essential in terms of surviving any combat encounter as well. In terms of the skills, these are pretty generic skills, so they're basically grouped into a specific group. So all close combat will be governed by that same skill level, same for ranged, and you can see there's some of the others. And for our characters, because we are going solo at the moment, so I have decided to give him some quite a bit of combat focused skills. So close and ranged combats both are 10, perception, medical, aid, resolve, science are also 10. The survival, we actually initially assigned it to be 10 as well, but we gained 1 from our backstory, which is being a scavenger. We can decided to have one of these skills increased by 1, and we decided to have our survival increased by 1. Now there's also some talents. These are kind of your standard traits in some of the modern RPGs, where you can basically do some have some feat that allows you to do things better than average people. And in our case, I just put marksman, which is just basically +2 range damage. So with the inventory out of the way, I do want to quickly go through our setup in front of us. So I have decided to do some tokens to help track the inventory. As I mentioned in the previous video, this game does focus quite a lot on tracking your stats. And for a lot of people that is quite frustrating, because if you look at your character sheet, then you will have things like stamina in this tiny little box, you will have luck, you will have emotional state, you will have stress, you will have wounds, and so forth. And on the other side, if you look at... So on the other hand, you have your inventory, which is what you are wearing on your body, and also your backpack and pockets. And you can see there's quite a lot of things going on. So on the left-hand side, this is what you have in your gear. Our character has a service pistol on his right hand and a combat knife on his left hand. And these are two kind of free items from the camp station. Apart from that, you will have your backpack slot and your pocket slot. So backpacks is where you can put some proper items, and there's 15 of them. And the pockets, you can put some of the lighter items, so you can have 10 of them. As you can see, basically this game does focus quite heavily on tracking your inventory, which, depending on your preference, you might like it, you might not like it. My take is that it is great to track inventory when they can provide a story prompt, and basically they can allow you to tell a better story. I personally do not like too much tracking, and that's why I have decided to use some of these tools to help me. So obviously, if you have watched my other videos, you know that I play quite a lot of dungeon crawlers. And in games, in dungeon crawlers where you do have a lot of trackings, I do tend to use dice and some tokens to help visualize those as well. So in this case, I have some batteries, which is light item. By default, you come up with 5, so I just put 5 there. I've got some oxygen pellet, which also is light, so I have 5 there. Ammo, I decided to purchase some. Actually, I purchased 6, and these are just 5 drakes each, so they're really cheap. And then we have medical kit, which is just 1 item, but it will allow you to use it 10 times. So I have 10 over here. I have also some drugs, which will help me reduce stress, and that is also free, and you can use up to 10 times. And then we have a time tracker, a stress tracker, and luck tracker. So we start with 3 lucks, and the stress comes from actually entering the battle. So we start with 2, and time is just 1. And almost every action, exploring a room, moving from one room to another, will take some time. So basically, it tracks by the interval of 10 minutes. So you start with 10, and then you go to 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then there's an hour. So we need to add an hour. We do need to take some rest, and it will actually consume your essential resources, and that's why I do think it's easier to have some dice or tokens to track of them rather than using your inventory sheet. And that is because you will have to use your eraser to keep cleaning the same slot. And if you have played any role-playing paper-based pen and paper role-playing games, you will know that if you keep rubbing on the same place, then that paper will just tear apart after a while. So that's why I do have this set up. So I think now we are good to go to the battle, and I will see you there. So in this game, there are 2 ways of having battles. One way is using the hex-based battle mat system, and the other one is using a zone-based system that is similar to Seekers Beyond the Shroud and also Disciples of Bones and Shadow. And the default ones will be using the battle mat that you can see in front of me. And the reason is because there is a heavy emphasis on line of sight, range, and even for explosions there will be an area effect that is based on the hex. So I decided not to print out the hex sheet for a couple of reasons. First of all, I think it looks pretty nice on the iPad. That's how I prefer to play games when it is using a battle mat. And the other reason is because you will need to place some cover, and I can just basically draw on it and or erase it and so forth, which is much easier than using a proper pen and paper in that case. So the way it works is quite robust. So first of all, you need to put in some cover in the battle mat itself. So there will be a D20 tables, which is not currently available in the playtest section. But the idea is basically you put one cover, which is a full cover, and then a 2 hex cover, and that is also a full cover, and then a 3 hex partial cover. So you can put it in any order you want. I just basically randomly put it like this way, so the ones with the line at the bottom will be the full cover. Now you might ask that question, well, I would definitely put somewhere that is beneficial to myself, isn't it? Now that is where the interesting part comes in, because in this game, you don't know where you come in. So you put in the cover, you decide the battleground, and then you roll a dice to decide where yourself and your enemy comes in. So based on last time's roll, we have come up with the enemy, which is the Guardian. And because we know that we are playing as a solo person, so the enemy that we're encountering will be the Titan. And I have decided to use these tokens to represent the Titans, simply because I don't use a lot of minis. I'm sure if you like minis, then there will be quite a lot of substitute or models that can represent the monster in this game. But I don't use them. But I do make some of these tokens for Blackstone Fortress. So you can actually use these. I think the hex in the paper will be 1 inch size. So these are also 1-inch tokens. So it should be relatively easy for you to put them on the Hackspace battle mat. Now I'm also going to use this to represent Jonathan. This is my character. This little grumpy man. But you know who he is in the Backstone Fortress. But I'm just going to use him to represent Jonathan in this case. So to decide your location, you will actually need 2 dice. So you will need a D4 dice, and you will also need a D10 die. And we can just basically roll and see how it goes. So this is 2 and this is 10. Okay, so 2 means that we will be placed at the east side of the battle mat, and 10 means that we will be on the same combat grid side, and no surprise. And because there's no surprise, it means that we can also roll additional additional D8s to see what exactly is our enemy doing. So I'm going to roll just that. So a number 2. A number 2 means that they are fighting another of its kind. Okay, that is very, very interesting. So I'm just going to put my character here. So I'm going to put them slightly not exactly touching each other. But when we get into this place, the communication site, we actually find this guardian just beating up another guardian for some reason. So luckily it means that we only have 1 to deal with, because the other one has been smashed into pieces when we get into the place. Now, as you can see straight away, it means that all the cover is kind of useless to us because we're not staying behind the covers, and so is the enemy. So that is good. So the way that combat works is we have to first of all decide the initiatives to see who goes first, and the way to do it is to roll 1 of the D10 dice for each of us. So I'm just going to do that. So we're going to use the 2 D10s to decide the initiatives. The ones who rolls highest will move first. So green will be for Jonathan, and the red ones will be for the Guardian. So let's see who goes first. So we rolled a 10, so we are going to go first. So some few options that we can do. Obviously we have a service pistol, so we're going to take a shot here. But in this game you can decide to move before you action, or action and move. So in this case I think we are going to keep our range as far as possible away from the Guardian, the Titan. But unfortunately, one thing about this game is that there's a line of sight, so we can't kind of move here, because if we move here, then if you take a line of sight, then the Guardian actually have the full cover, so we can't even shoot it from there. So the only way we can go is up there, which is not great because the Guardian will be easier to close to us. But anyway, let's move there and try to take a shot. So in this game, the range attack will based on our range combat attacks skills plus a d20 versus the enemy's dexterity plus 20 d20. So we're going to try and see if we manage to hit the Guardian. So I rolled a 15 and Guardian rolls a 6, which we plus 10 for our range combat, which brings to 25. Now, one thing to remember for this game is, again, there's a stamina-based system. So in our case, because it's a service pistol, which gives us fast attack, so it's 3 stamina per attack, which brings to 7. But it would minus 2 to our combat skill, which is fine because the Guardian only has 2 dexterity, so we will still hit it anyway. Now, apart from hitting it, we'll also need to decide the damage, because we need to damage it enough for us to knock the Guardian down. And the way to do it is to roll a basic d10 plus the damage bonus that comes from your weapons and your traits and so forth. So in our cases, the service pistol is also a d10 damage bonus. So we see 2 d10s plus our specific traits, which is marksman, which plus 2 to our skills. So let's see what we have. So it's 5, 1, 6 plus 2. So it's 8. So it's just enough to knock down the Guardian, because that is 8 constitution for this Guardian. So we still have some stamina left. I think we'll continue shooting it. Hopefully we will be able to finish it off the next round. So again, we'll need to roll 2d20s to see if we manage to hit it. So we roll a 15. The Guardian also rolled a 15, plus his dexterity means 17 for him. And for us, we definitely hit it because we have a ranged combat of 10. Even if we minus the 2 from the quick attack, we still manage to hit it. So it brings us to the question is whether we are able to defeat it. So 2d10s, again, this is 9 and 6, so already 15, plus the 2 damage from the traits. We managed to do 1 wound to the Guardian. So that is all it takes to defeat this enemy. Okay. So from this game so far, I don't think there's any loot that you can gain from defeating an enemy by default, because all the loot is coming from exploration of the site, getting the technology of these alien races. So you don't automatically gain any loot or experience from defeating an enemy. But in our case, I'm actually going to do some investigation after defeating that Titan, because we know that from our previous rolls that it tries to beat up the another Guardian for some reasons. Now, if you remember from our last video, we actually wrote on a dominant hazard for this site, which is some psychic event going on. So I don't know if that's something to do with it, which I am actually going to roll a d20 to see if it is related. So we'll see how it goes. So I'm going to roll a d20 to see if there's something wrong with this Titan that we just defeated, because it is trying to beat up another Guardian for some reason. So I'm going to say the chance, the likelihood that this is yes is actually likely. So what it means that we just need to roll more than 8 to means that it is yes, and we'll see how it goes. Which is just 8. Okay, so that is very interesting. So it is just yes, and we can also roll another d8 to see if there's any qualifiers, so basically your but, no, and so forth. So we will see how it goes. So d6, so 3. So no qualifier, so it's basically just this yes, this Guardian is impacted by that eerie psychic event that is going on, which means that the Guardians in this site is destroying the other Guardians as well. So very interesting. So we'll keep that in mind, and we will continue with our exploration phase. So before we go to the next location, we're going to increase our time by 1. So we have spent 10 minutes dealing with that Guardian. So by the time we get to 6, we'll need to use up some of our oxygen and also our battery and also our ammo, because we have took some shots in that combat. So whenever you short your weapons, your ranged weapons, then when the time comes to proceeding to the next hour, then you will need to change your ammo. So let's see what we're gonna see next, which is a d10 again. So let's see how it goes. Okay, a 10. So a random occurrence. So in this game, there's also these kind of random occurrence that is based on locations or discovery, events, danger, and situations. So we will try and see which one we have. This is a d4 table. So it's 2, which is an event, a d10 table, and see what it goes. So 9. A character is altered by visions of the places past. Oh no, that psychic event is happening to our character, and what I'm gonna do is I am actually going to use the Oracle table. So it's a good time to show the Oracle system in this game. So it's very similar to the ones that you see in the Iron Swan, where you have a bunch of nouns and a bunch of words. And you can see over here there's a action table of D100 and a theme table of D100 as well. So I'm going to roll these two tables to see what we're going to get. So the first action, 45, and that is break, and the theme is 95. So 95 is brick agent. Okay, so it's not telling me too much. 95. So I'm going to try to go to the other side. So instead of 95, you can go flip over to 59 instead, and that is misfortune. So break and misfortune. Okay, not sure if that's giving me enough. What I will do though is there's also a situation table in this game. So it is breakdown into these site tables. So the ones that we have is communication, and we're going to roll a D20 to see what we're going to get. This is 19, interface, break and misfortune, and also I guess we can also roll on the verbs as well to see what we have. So 28, so that is a confused interface, and then break, misfortune. Okay, so I think that is enough after rolling that. What it tells me is because it is a communication site, the interface has basically been confused by the psychic power that we are experiencing, and that also explains why the Titan is actually attacking the other Guardians. Basically, somehow something is influencing the minds of everything in this communication side of this alien race, and they started to break down their nerves, and then they basically see all their friends, their colleagues, and basically other people as enemies, and they start attacking them. So yeah, we basically see that from a vision. I think it's a good thing for us because we are alone, so it doesn't matter. Anyone is an enemy here anyway. So I think we are going to proceed as is. So it takes another bit of time. So we are going to go to 3. So we need to see what kind of things that we are going to encounter next, and it's going to be another T10. So 3. So resources, finally. So that's what we're here for, isn't it? So that's the alien technology, or the alien resources that we are going to get. Now there's 2 types of things that you can get from here. So there are 2 major resources that you can get from the site. That is the data crystal, and then there is the alloy cubes. So the alloy cubes are much larger. They take 1 gear slot. But the Karam station will pay 75 Drake's coins for them, and the data crystal are considered as light, so you can basically pack up to 10 in one of the gear slot, but they will pay 50 each. So this is basically what we're here for. That is the main thing. That's how we're going to make our money. So I'm actually going to roll on both of these. So by default, you will get D6 A metals and D10 data crystal, which I'm going to put here, and I'm going to see how much A metals that we're going to get. 1, just 1. Okay, so that's fine. It means that it will take up 1 of our gear slot, and then the D10 for the data crystal, 2. So just 2 of them. Better than nothing, I guess. So 2 and 1. But then we will have to go to the next encounter. So time again proceeded by 1. So we are 40 minutes in. And one thing to remember is because we will by the time we get 1 hour, we will need to rest, and we also will need to reduce our battery, our oxygen, and our ammo by 1, which we only have 5, 5, and 6 at the moment. So let's see what we're going to get next. D10 again. So a 5. So a hazard manifestation. So a 5. A hazard manifestation. So let's see what we are going to get from there. So this is the kind of the D20 table. This is not mechanical results. This is just kind of a some kind of ideas of what is going on in this place. So let's see what we have encountered. D20. 13. It affects the recovery of a character, psychological or physical. So I think it's pretty clear based on what we have encountered so far, the visions that we see. So we are starting to get impacted by these, and it is going to impact the stress level, which I'm going to give us an increase actually. So we had been having 2 previously from encountering the first Titan. And in this case, I'm going to bring it to 5 actually bring it to 4 because we're saying that we have encountered some kind of danger, which I think is bringing up by 2. So in this game, the stress is quite important because it will have both mechanical and thematic results. So we are currently at 4 after increasing our stress level by 2 because of the hazard that we just encountered. So at stress level 3, our nervous tick will start to appear, and it will only disappear after losing any amount of stress. So remember, our nervous tick is wrinkling the nose. Jonathan is gonna start keep wrinkling his nose. I don't know, it's because of some smell that he can smell of. I don't know, anyway. But he's gonna start doing that. Well, we have to be careful because by the time we get to 10, then we'll start reacting negatively to this stress. So so far so good. We do have the pills that we have bring with us that can reduce the stress, but I do want to hold on to them for now. So let's go to the next one, which again we need to proceed the time by 1. So we are almost within an hour mark. We are at 5 now. Another 1. So another encounter. So one thing we need to remember is there is a finite number of unique encounters that we can have in each side. So I think last time we rolled on a 3, so it means that there's only 3 types of enemies that we can face in this site. And the first one we have already encountered is the Titan. Now we are going to see what we are going to get in the next thing, and I hope this is going to be useful for us to see what happens, what really impacted this site, why the Titans is all attacking each other and so forth. So let's go to the creature type. So again, a D6. So it's a 5, is a synthetics. Okay, so synthetics are the biomechanical life form commonly found around ISIC facilities or places of interest, probably the result of their experimentation. Okay, so that's not good. Okay, so what we need to do in this case is, because these are more complicated enemies, you will actually roll on their stats to come up with, you know, the size of them, how many legs it has, and so forth to get down to the end of them. So we'll go through them one by one. So first of all, we need to roll on the encounter difficulty, which is a D20, and we rolled an 18, which is elite. That's not great. And for 1 person elite, let's see what we're going to see. So we're going to see 5, which is 1 elite creature. So we know that what we are facing is the elite. So next, again, we're going to see what type we are going to see. So 6, a synthetics. So synthetics are the type of biomechanical life form commonly found around these facilities, and they are probably the result of the alien experimentation. So this is different from the Guardian because there's we have to generate the details of these encounters. And we're going to start from the size. So it's a d20 to see how big this thing is. So it's 8. A creature the size of a large dog or a bobcat. Okay, so it has -1 damage. That is a great thing. The other thing is to see the creature's drive. This creature's d4. Which we get a territory control. So this creature has the urge to impose its dominance over a territory, claiming it as its own. Any intruders will be dealt with swiftly, or at least chastened off. A territorial creature doesn't pursue any characters that exceed the area when they were first encountered. Okay, so if we do leave, then it's not gonna chase us. That's a good thing. So the next thing is to see the creature intelligence, so we can see how that goes. So 5, which is animal-like, and you can see the elite has a specific skills bonus that you need to apply to it, because we'll do it later. The types, the role of these things, and it's going to be a D10. So 5, a lurker. Okay, so general behavioral guidelines will avoid direct confrontation and attempt to ambush or take its components by surprise. So it's basically just guarding its own territory and lurking in the shadows and so forth. We can also give it some unique traits, which is another D10. So it's 1. +1 armor and -1 defense, so it's basically quite tough in that case. So the last thing is the enemy abilities, which is D20, which is 3. Acid blood. So each time the creature receives damage, it deals D20 damage to any character within melee range. There's also a 50% chance that the acid will affect a piece of gear they have equipped, destroying it using the damaged gear table. So yeah, that's not great. So we ideally want to use the service pistol to kill it at range. And the last thing we can do is to look at the appearance, and this is where things get really interesting. So general appearance, let's roll a d20. So it's 19. Petrus. Not sure how that looks like in a creature form, but we'll continue to see what it is covered with. We know that it has acid blood already, but what is it covered with in the outside? 7, oozes. Oh, is that the acid blood? Basically, it's the whole thing is like a slime, I guess. Let's see if there's any limbs on this thing. So it's D4. 3. Quadruple, so there's 4 legs on this ooze with 4 legs. Okay, and let's see what's the hind limbs and the forelimbs. The hind limbs are 3 hoops. It has hoops as the hind legs, and what about the forelegs, which is a pincers. What kind of crazy animal this is? Face, how many mouths? Oh, it doesn't have a mouth. Let's see, a D6. Tentacle mouths. Oh no. And then eyes, how many eyes does it have? And go and roll on that one as well. 1, no eyes. Okay, that's good. There's no eyes. So what about a unique feature? 1, with wings as well. This ooze thing with 4 legs, with a tentacle mouth, have wings. I'm not sure what to make of it, but it is definitely some crazy experiment that the aliens are working on. So I think I'm gonna stop the video here. I think it the gameplay gives you a general idea of what you're going to expect basically within these sites and also during the combat as well. So I'm going to give you some thoughts on what I think about the gameplay in general. So as you can see from the start of the combat, this game is quite heavily emphasized on a skirmish mode where basically you will have to be pretty tactical on where you go, where you stay behind the cover, and also what kind of weapons. Is it range or melee? And basically there is a level of chance here whether you can hit your enemy and so forth, and it does take a bit of time, so it's not the quickest combat. It depends on your own preference. It could be a good thing or it could be a bad thing, but one thing I do say is that it is definitely better if you have more enemies and also more team members. And that's because obviously you have more tactical choices. You have some people staying behind the cover, someone in front dealing melee damage or basically drawing the attention of the enemies. So it's always best to have more options. So I've spoken to Alex on his Discord, and he's looking at creating the companion rules. So instead of having another characters that you need to control completely, you can have some kind of mercenaries that will help you in the combat, but you don't necessarily need to come up with all the stories or role play them as a solo player. So that is definitely good. Regarding the other part of the gameplay where you explore the site, so you can see there is definitely a lot of emphasis on creating a narrative stories on the player's behalf. So basically, when you roll on certain element, the idea is that you will need to link them together to create a narrative stories. And I think generally that's obviously how solo role playing works. But in this game, the structure does help you. The atmosphere is definitely quite clear that you're facing some kind of cosmic horror rather than just completely random event that you might see in a fantasy setting. So that's generally pretty much my feeling to it. So I hope this is useful to those of you who are interested in this game. Yeah, that's pretty much my playtest section. So I will see you guys next time. Thank you. Bye bye.